My name is Gabby, and we are live here today for our second Tech Talk with Dr. Steve Arcidiacono from the Boys Town Center for Behavioral Health. We're going to be discussing all about video games today because I'm sure a lot of you parents are probably scoping out those Black Friday deals and thinking of different ideas for Christmas gifts, and video games might be on your list. So while you're thinking about that, we're just going to talk about a few safety practices and both the good things and bad things that can come with video gaming for kids of all ages. If you're watching live and you have a question for Dr. Steve, you can leave it in the comment section of this video. And if you're not watching live, but maybe you have a follow-up, of course, we'll be linking resources from Boys Town Parenting in the comments as well. And please make sure you like this video and share it with another parent that may find it helpful. Dr. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. I've been doing it since I got into the field. When people are like, hey, you need to give a presentation on your topic of choice, I was always talking about research on video games and its impact on kids. And back then, it didn't have quite the impact that it's having now. So I even got feedback on occasion like, hey, you might want something that's a little bit more relevant to like clinical concerns. And now, every family that I'm talking to has brought up screens and video games. And so I'm really excited to share what information I have and try to be helpful for people.
Yes, so we very much appreciate it. Before we begin, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your role at our South Florida Behavioral Health Clinic.
Sure. So my name's Dr. Steve Arcidiacono, and I usually just go by Dr. Steve because it's easier than saying that last name. And I'm the director of our South Florida Behavioral Health Clinic. So we do outpatient behavioral health services, which would be like therapy, some testing, things like that. So once a week, every other week, we do individual and family therapy. We do parent-oriented interventions like parent training, things like that. And this topic is a very common one that we encounter. So we make sure that we are educated on how to approach and help families with how to manage screen time and especially video games.
Yes. And as I said in the beginning, you might think when you're clicking on this live chat to watch it, oh, video games, we're just going to talk about all the bad things. Well, of course, there's bad things with everything, right? But tell us a little bit, what are some good things that come out of video games for kids?
Sure. So like you said, I think video games and psychology, like people are going to immediately jump to the bad stuff. There are good things. There's research that cognitive skills, like kids who play video games tend to have improvements in certain cognitive skills, like problem solving, working memory, things like that. You got to think about what the games are doing, what they're doing in the games. And a lot of it is strategic, solving puzzles. It depends on what kind of games they're playing. Some connections with other people, like communication skills. And a lot of games nowadays are collaborative. So they're playing as a team and needing to figure out who's going where and what and those sorts of things. So I think there are benefits in that way. And then socially, even beyond just the strategy of working and communicating with each other, it's become, from back when I was young, a socially isolating interaction, like you're in your mom's basement playing on the console, to a really connected experience. There are very few games that don't have some sort of social element included in them that are very popular for kids. And in fact, if you aren't playing video games as a like adolescent boy, you're in the vast minority of the group, and it might even be harder to connect with people socially. So I would say those two things: cognitive skills and social connections.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And you mentioned screen time here at the beginning of our chat, which of course is something that we're always worried about for our kids. How can families tell the difference between healthy gaming habits and more problematic use?
Sure. So I tend to include video games under that umbrella of just screen time management. And in particular, I think video games are a type of interaction with a screen that is very, very, very powerful. So, sitting passively and watching a movie is a fun experience, but this is just in the history of time. It's hard to imagine something as engaging as these exciting games with all sorts of new, interesting things happening, and you're talking with people, and it's bright colors. It's very, dopamine releasing. So it can be easy to fall into problematic habits with them that go beyond some of the other screens that are available. And what I usually talk about is making sure that the priorities are met. And I'll probably mention that a lot during this conversation. People get really caught up in time, like, oh, they're spending how many hours a day? And to me, it's not really about the time. It's about, are they meeting the priorities? And priorities being things like sleep, things like health, getting some physical activity during the day, eating, believe it or not, eating with some mindfulness, like paying attention to what you're eating, not just scarfing whatever is available, or neglecting your eating because you're too engaged in a game. Hygiene, making sure that you're showering and brushing your teeth, and maybe taking some time away to spend some time with friends in real life, or some family dinner time, those kinds of things. So if those things are being met, then the gaming could be hours and it wouldn't be problematic necessarily. But if those things aren't being met and they're starting to prioritize the video game time over those other things, like sneaking out in the middle of the night to play for several hours, that's a sign that it's crossed the line from something that's just a fun, potentially positive outlet to something that is problematic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that reminds me, I was scrolling today on social and I read this story from a mom who had 2 teenage children. She didn't designate son or daughter, but she was saying, I put so much effort in to take my kids out on the weekend to do something fun and try and connect as a family. And the whole time they are just giving me an attitude. They're grumbling. They don't want to go. And then it's funny to me because, a couple months later, they'll bring it up and say, Mom, that was fun. We should go back and do it again. Mm-hmm. And I was reading through the comments on that post of just, curiosity of what people were saying. And someone commented and said, take away all the devices, no more screen time. They're grumbling because they just want to be at home doing the video games and scrolling through TikTok. What would you say about that?
Could be.
Yeah, could be.
It's hard to compete. Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm saying is taking your family to the beach is fun. Mm-hmm. You can play, games and boogie board and make a sandcastle and those kinds of things. But you could have fun there. But compared to logging into, I'm making up one of the more popular games right now, Steal a Brain Rot with your friends, and there's this assembly line and you don't know what's coming down. It could be this new awesome brain rot thing that's giving you all the cool points, and you're stealing them from your friends and you're yelling, and it's new, it's got bright colors and immediately reinforcing, and the sun's not hot, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just got this very, very engaging experience. Sometimes I talk about like the history of games and how they were developed, and that helps you get some insight there. Think about how arcades were. So when people were publicly accessing video games for the first time, was very often in an arcade. And in those cases, the game creators would make their game, and then you would have to, put coins in the slot to be able to play it. And then if you, lost or died or something, you would have to put in more coins to continue. So if the game was too easy or too boring, that like if they just, played it and finished the game and yay, I won on one coin, that didn't get them enough money. And if it was too difficult and they lost right away, they would go, I'm not going to play this. So the game designers had to find ways to get the person to continue to play. That was like the goal. So they needed to make it fun and engaging and just challenging enough to keep them going. And each new level gave new abilities or had new exciting things to defeat, and you never knew what was coming. And so in the origin of games, even from the 80s, that was sort of the goal, was how do I get people to continue to engage in this thing? And then came home consoles where you could play on your own, and they wanted to keep people engaged and be willing to spend $50 or whatever at that time to be able to play that thing. And now it's, how do I get people, how do I compete with the other games? There's a million jillion ones out there that they could play. So how do I get everyone on mine? And so just the people creating these things are incentivized to make them in a way that is the most engaging and interesting thing that they can possibly do to get people to continue to play them. So when you compare that to a peaceful fun time at the beach, it's just not a fair fight. So yes, I would probably be worried a little bit about the limits and maybe set them up in a different way where there is better balance of activities, so that they have other things that they're engaged in, and they're not as bought into just playing the game.
And how do we kind of set those limits without it being a daily power struggle?
It's a great question. The short answer is you need to create a media plan. So a media plan is something that the whole family follows. You take some time to draw it up. You discuss it with the kids.